Hi guys, my name is Brittany and I am going to do the Native American Lucy Lewis design pottery. So the first couple things that I want to talk about is where did the art originate from. So the art is from Acoma, Pueblo, New Mexico. It's also known as Sun City because it sits hundreds of feet above everything else up on a mesa. So it sits pretty high and overlooks everything else, so it has a really good sun and sky view. The next thing is the purpose of the art. Lucy Lewis made her designs all basically inspired from Native American, Anasazi, and Mogollon cultures. She's also inspired by things like the sky and the sun. So a lot of her work is mostly black and white with some touches of orange in it. How is her art made is the next thing I'd like to talk about. So Lucy Lewis made all of her own pottery and everything, and then once that was dried, she made all the paints and everything by using mineral paints and a brush made from yucca plants. The reason she used the yucca plants for a brush was because the brush holds more paint and makes finer lines than a regular brush like we would buy at the store. Then finally, on a day when the weather was right for a firing, she'd put a small number of finished pieces in a pit fire, and then that would help set the paint. And now I'm going to kind of show you one thing that was a little bit inspiring to me that I liked from her art. She did a lot of designs that were simple yet very interesting looking. So here I have my paper, and I have just a mechanical pencil because I'm going to kind of draw out my pot first, and then I have my vine charcoal and my little eraser. I really want to use the vine charcoal just because it's kind of easier to smudge and shade and make it look better. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and draw out my pot. And a lot of her pots weren't just round pots, they were kind of different shapes. This one that I'm drawing now is a little bit more flat at the top and then more round towards the bottom. So I just kind of sketched out like a pot in there. And then the second step that I'm going to do is kind of draw in a couple lines, one across the top and one across the bottom, kind of following the shape of the pot a little bit. If you look at her art, you'll notice that a lot of her artwork has different lines in it, like these, and like this one up here across the top. This little one right here, the second one that I drew in there. She drew a lot of lines, and it looks like she keeps her art in that area. And then next I'll use my vine charcoal. I'm actually gonna get a new piece out just because I accidentally broke that other one. But the vine charcoal is mainly what I'm going to use to sketch out the designs. So it's the one that I'm more inspired by today is kind of like an Aztec-y Tetris look. So I'll kind of show you that after I get one of them in there. So, like I said, it's a lot of kind of Aztec looking art for her. something I really enjoyed about her art, just because it's something that I personally kind of enjoy looking at. So there's kind of like my first Aztec looking design, and then you'll just kind of continue that design, kind of trying to follow the shape of the pot still as well. And we'll see, like, once you get it kind of drawn in, you can kind of start shading it a little bit with the vine charcoal too. I messed up a little bit, so let me go ahead and take a piece out of there. Just using, that's the one thing that's kind of nice about using the vine charcoal is, you know, if you mess up a little bit, just kind of smudge it off, so. Alright, so let's see here. So this is my Aztec looking design before I do any of the shading and finishing with the charcoal. As you can kind of see if we go back and look at it, it has a lot of like the zigzags and kind of boxy looks, like Aztec-y, which is kind of fun to draw. It kind of has its own little pattern that you just go along with. Another thing that I really like about the vine charcoal is that you can do it pretty much as thin as you want or as thick as you want, just depending on what you're trying to do exactly. Just kind of smudge it in with your fingers. So all I'm doing right now is kind of smudging in and blending my vine charcoal a little bit. That way I can get kind of a more soft look to it and not such a harsh lines and whatnot with them. If you looked at her work, you'll notice she has a lot more soft focus stuff in her drawings. And once again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of black and white. Alright, So before I clean it up, this is how my pot is starting to look after smudging. So I'm just going to kind of take my little nub thing here and kind of add my eraser in with there, and that help make the lines a little smoother looking. And alright, so I'm almost kind of finished up here, kind of cleaning it up a little bit. Alright, and this is my final pot on here. I'm going to darken a few pieces actually before I call it my final product. There's a few pieces that didn't come out quite as dark as I'd like, but that's another thing about the vine charcoal, is if it doesn't come out like you want it, you just take it off, make it darker, change the shape, kind of do whatever. It's almost like just a cooler pencil. There we go, that's a little better. Alright, and there we go. That is my Lucy Lewis design pot, and that's it. And I hope you enjoyed the video.